Jason, let's just go right to the tweet I just sent you. Because I have to say, I haven't seen a more douchier face than the face of U.S. Representative Adam Schiff. I don't know. Do you disagree or agree here, Jason? Let me hear your opinion. Uh, I can't say it enough. That is the epitome of a douche.
I'm not a fan of Adam Schiff. That's a pretty terrible picture. Less concerned with his douchey appearance and more concerned with his douchey lying comments and the fact that
Yeah, Jason. I'm not the fashion channel here. I don't care how he looks. The epitome with that headline, the gaslighting, the denial, the outright lunacy from the people that we trust most in our society is still prevalent around the Russian collusion host, and that's why Adam Schiff, U.S. representative, came out today, said that there's still ample evidence of Trump Russian collusion. But this time, it's not being investigated by the FBI and their dozens of agents, hundreds of subpoenas, millions of dollars. We still don't know the full estimates here of how much this investigation. No, it's not found there. Now it's in plain sight. Obviously, just total delusion, joined, of course, by the mainstream media that ushered similar epithets like CNN that said that they did nothing wrong, even though they knowingly lied to you. But now we have some new developments that we're going to be covering in this video about this whole Russian collusion hoax. Because recently, a resolution in the House of Representatives was passed 420-0, calling for, of course, this full Mueller report to be released. This, of course, was then pushed to the Senate, where they were supposed to vote on it until U.S. Senator Rand Paul decided to add an amendment to this resolution where, of course, he would release also public communications between John Brennan, the former CIA head, who really ultimately was the major figurehead in starting this Russian collusion hoax, Barack Obama, and, of course, James Comey. Rand Paul wanted communications between these individuals put in there with the Mueller report to be fully released as an amendment, and it was never voted upon. This was an interesting story because, of course, a lot of people were freaking out saying, this is proof. This is 100% proof. They don't want the Mueller report out. Well, no, that's not what they're saying. Rand Paul's just taking advantage of this political situation to his advantage and saying, hey, if we're going to release all the little details that were investigated about Donald Trump, let's look into the people who perpetrated this biggest lie against him as a political weapon. Because, Jason, that's exactly what it was. Giuliani even said, U.S. representatives should have access to everything in Mueller report. Trump has never denied it. The report's going to come out. It's being redacted as we're speaking. But the fact that people are saying that Rand Paul's actions, they're definitely politically motivated here. There's no denying that, Jason. But the
no.
fact that they're saying this is proof, there's Russian collusion, just more gaslighting and delusion. That's my take on it. What about yours, Jason?
Yeah, well, so let's look at this, right? Just out of the gates, I want everybody to know I want the entire report. I'd love it to be completely declassified, all 300 pages, and given to the public. Guys,
It will be.
well,
I think they're being redacted. So right now, as we're speaking, we're having Barr, the Attorney General, and I'm also hearing Mueller take part in, of course, blacking out specific parts that they don't want to release to the public, going through it together. But still, even when this is happening, there's been scrutiny and suspicion, and I would say just outright delusion this entire process for the last 3 years, Jason.
yeah, absolutely. So again, I'd love to see an unredacted report. That's not in the cards. That's never going to happen. That's not because of Trump. All the intelligence agencies are going to look at this, from the FBI to the CIA to the NSA, and they will go through and they will black out sources, intelligence operation methods, and such. So
And
again, I
Jason,
want to
just to
say,
cut you off there, a lot of times when the government censors stuff, it's usually really ridiculous and makes no sense. Just like the idea of government, in my own opinion. But the history of redactions have usually been very, very ridiculous, and it could create more political controversy here. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, absolutely. So again, I'm behind a fully unredacted report. It's not going to happen. It wasn't going to happen. When Barr said in the middle of April that we would get this report, of course there were going to be redactions. Now, what this 402-0 resolution that passed the House and wasn't even to be voted on in the Senate wants an unredacted full report. I'm great with that, but Why don't we get the same thing on the quote-unquote Russian collusion investigation? And that's what Rand Paul is doing. He's saying, look, we know that Fusion GPS was paid for by the Hillary Clinton campaign. That's huge. Remember, the Steele dossier, going through Fusion GPS, Bruce Orr, all these people connected to Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, the initial investigation, the fact that this had to be started under the Obama administration. Rand Paul is simply saying, hey, I want to know what information Barack Obama was acting on, what information John Brennan, who was very vocal about this and is just making small retractions now about Russia. Well, I guess my intelligence wasn't that great. But I thought it was the entire intelligence community that was telling us that Russia had meddled in our elections and that the campaign had colluded with them. Of course.
Yeah. What was it? 15 intelligence agencies are coming out. That was the main talking point. They were like, it's fake news versus the intelligence agencies. The intelligence agencies never lie. They never have a political agenda. I'm like, come on, these people are absolute lunatics. And a lot of that information came directly from John Brennan. He was the original pusher of this in the public sphere, and also the individual who connected the Steele dossier into the intelligence community as if it was real. The Steele dossier, absolutely made up. We looked at it face value. I think it was BuzzFeed that first reported on it, especially the PP tapes. Allegedly,
they published the whole thing. They were the first ones.
Financed, of course, by the DNC. Financed, of course, by Hillary Clinton, and then, this is legitimate. And they went out with this delusion for 3 years, with John Brennan, even just 7 or 8 weeks ago, saying on national television, "Oh, there's going to be indictments. Oh, their indictments are coming," sounding like a QAnon, freaking. I don't want to say anything derogatory. I don't want to curse here. Family-friendly show, but obviously, either mental derangement or just absolute delusion of grandeur of how powerful they think they were, trying to, of course, besmirch and try to take down someone, which is incredulous to say the least.
Or, Luke, it was an intelligence psyop talking point. That's what it was. When you're the head of the CIA and you're the one putting this information out there, and then it's being repeated and repeated and repeated and repeated on CNN, on MSNBC, in the Washington Post, in the New York Times, I could continue. That's when it becomes a psychological operation. So even with this headline from The Hill, Rand Paul blocks resolution calling for Mother Report release, is kind of misleading. This isn't the first time he's blocked it. He's blocked it several times before, and not because he's saying he doesn't want it out there. He's just saying, hey, let's have some fair play. Let's see what they actually knew. Let's see how this investigation, remember, this cost tens of millions of dollars. This had like thousands of subpoenas. Okay, we had big-time investigators. This wasn't free. And what did we find? Well, we found the root for obstruction of justice. And for this thing to carry on from the 2+ years it's already been involved into the next 2 years at least. It's pretty upsetting stuff to me, Luke.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with what Rand is doing. Me and Rand Paul had a detrimental past before, if you watch this channel, to say the least. There's some things I disagree with him on, but on this point, I think he's right. I want all the information. I want to find out what led to the nation being lied for hyping and circulating the biggest fake news story in close to a decade now. Who was responsible for that? What happened? Who knowingly perpetrated this bigger lie? I want to know. And these people deserve to be held responsible, because they not only created a huge disservice against, Donald Trump and the Republicans, but also against their own side, talking about something that wasn't there, that wasn't real. Talking about something that was completely made up, that anyone who just paid a little bit of attention would have known, hey, everything here doesn't really add up. Everything here is being manipulated in so many different ways. Didn't matter. And took away any legitimate criticism that could have been levied against Donald Trump, that could have held his feet to the fire against actual issues that actually matter and affect the people. But no, they decided to play fairy tale land. And again, disagree with Rand Paul on some issues, but I think he's correct here. I want to know everything. I think maybe there should be even a separate investigation looking into how everything was spread here, and maybe hopefully holding fake news responsible for just the pain and suffering that they have caused so many people because of this larger political power play. There was elderly people, talking. We covered this story too, Jason. I'm going to try to generalize it here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there was, people who were elderly who were saying, "I don't want to die without seeing this Mueller report, without Trump going down."
Well, hold on. That was what was reported in Newsweek as a headline. And it was perpetrated by mainstream media hacks who used a couple of quotes from people and then their kids, their adult children. This is exactly how my mom feels. She doesn't want to die before the Mueller report comes out. I mean, they actually went to somebody's deathbed confessional where the son said the last thing he spoke about was, "I guess I'll never get to see that damn report." As if the elderly were so invested on taking Trump down from Russian collusion, when in fact, I would say, Luke, the majority of the elderly were actually his base. Again, this guy won the election. Do you not think that the 50 to 80 crowd, many of them were voting for him? You think that the 50 to 80 crowd is full of social justice warriors? Give me a break. But again, that mainstream media hype and spin is they found a couple of quotes, they made a headline, they made a story, and they made people believe that old people were literally upset they were dying before Trump was taken down. I mean, It doesn't get any more bizarre and absurd than that.
I mean, so many people were just caught with eggs on their face. Some of them decided to still run with it and deny the fact that they were wrong. People like Adam Schiff, again, saying, "Yeah, there's still ample evidence. It's all in plain sight, guys. Don't worry. Don't worry about the huge investigation that looked through every little detail. No, don't look at that. That doesn't matter. It's in plain sight. There's collusion." Come on. Absolute lunacy. Absolute just crazy, insane behavior by some of the people who can't take responsibility. Now, some people did take responsibility. I was surprised to even see Anderson Cooper take responsibility. And during the day that this whole Russian collusion report was released by Mueller, he went on television, and I was surprised by this. And he was like, "Hey, I think instead of being mad that there wasn't any Russian collusion, we should be happy that our president, our democracy wasn't usurped, and that he wasn't controlled by another entity and power out there." And Anderson Cooper made that point. And again, that's another person strongly disagree with, confronted a bunch of times, but he was one of the few individuals that took responsibility and actually saw this in a light that should have been seen rationally. And there's a lot of lackluster rational thinking from the media that's creating a very chaotic situation. I mean, just look at their record. January, Covington hoax. February, Jesse Smollett. March, Russian collusion. What's going to happen in April? We don't know, but we're most likely going to cover it here on this independent media channel, which of course is surviving because of you and your support, especially on wearechange.org/donate, where of course your donations keep us free and independent. Jason, I got nothing else to say. If you do, feel free to cut me off. But other than that, stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.